Everyone has a mother, and the dragons of Wings of Fire are no exception. In Wings of Fire, there are many bad mothers in particular. In the first book, we get a whopping 3 bad mothers in the short time frame it takes place in: Kestrel, Scarlet, and Cattail. In the next book, we get another one. Even in the Rainwing tribe, there are bad mothers, as every dragon is responsible for the raising of dragonettes, and some are outright neglectful of their charges, like Kingaju's mentor who didn't care she disappeared. Though there are some bad mothers, there are also some good mothers, like Thorn and Glacier. Tui writes mothers very well, especially compared to a lot of other Xenofiction novels. So let's jump in and examine the way motherhood is portrayed in Wings of Fire. Before we get started, if you are new to this channel, please think about subscribing. I regularly post both Wings of Fire and Warrior Cats content, so you'll never be bored. And to my current subscribers, thank you so much for supporting me. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. There are a lot of bad mothers in Wings of Fire. The series is perhaps infamous for having almost every single mother be evil, so there are more bad mothers than good ones, or even just mothers mentioned to be in the lives of the dragonettes at all. Let's go through all the bad mothers in the series I can remember. Kestrel, who is physically abusive. Scarlet, who is physically and medically and a lot of other things abusive. Cattail, who is neglectful. But it's kind of the Mudwing culture, so can you really judge her too much? Cobra, who is physically abusive. Secret Keeper, though she's a bit of a sleeper pick. Diamond, who's physically abusive. Cadell, who is an adoptive mother, but she wasn't a good mother to her actual daughter at all, too. Belladonna, who is physically abusive and toxic. Cobra, wait, I already mentioned her. There's probably more that I'm forgetting as well. A lot of bad mothers in the series are foils to another mother who is good. An example of this is Glacier and Oasis. They can easily be seen as foils. Both of them have 3 daughters. The oldest daughter is strong, the middle one smart, and the youngest one childish. One is a heat dragon, the other one a cold dragon. They are also, of course, both queens, and they have entirely different perspectives on parenting. Oasis encouraged survival of the fittest among her daughters. Her own planting of competition between them is what caused them to not compromise, and the entire war of Sandwing secession. Contrast her with Glacier. Glacier loved her daughters and encouraged them to be cooperative with each other. Because of that, upon her unforeseen death, the Icewing Kingdom did not spontaneously combust like the Sandwing Kingdom. Glacier also was not obsessed with her own death like Oasis. Oasis did everything to prevent her death, by whittling down the number of dragons who could possibly take the throne from her. Glacier didn't do that. Instead, she took time to nurture the dragons who could possibly take the throne from her, ensuring the best survival of the kingdom. Another case of a good versus bad mother is Thorn versus Cobra. The two are contrasted in the opening of Darkness of Dragons. There we see Cobra, who thinks that Keebly is weak for giving her the coconut. Then there's Thorn, who recognizes that he's kind and decides to adopt him. By using bad mothers, Tui is able to contrast them to the good mothers and demonstrate good parenting. Having bad mothers is a common trope in fiction. More broadly, evil mothers is a common trope in fiction. It allows you to have child characters without having to talk about their parents, or have a reason for them to separate from their parents and do their own thing. It can also give the character a backstory and a different perspective from the other characters. However, I feel like having bad mothers to create a backstory isn't the only reason why Tui makes bad mothers. Bad mothers are a bad thing and something to be feared. Because of that, I feel like Tui writes bad mothers because she fears them. Tui writing what she fears can be seen in other places in the series. She wrote about her fearful relationship that she had when she was 14 through Darkstalker and Clearsight. She writes about brainwashing, the sequences with Darkstalker and Fierce Teeth, Darkstalker and Vulture, and the Jerboas were all terrifying. She also writes about bug dragons, which is objectively terrifying. Can we just take a second to recognize how scary a hiveling would be in real life? Like a 12-foot tall multi-horned dragon with buzzing bug wings on your roof? I would cry. Anyways, it's pretty clear that Tui writes bad mothers because she fears bad mothers. Perhaps she even fears that she might become one, as parents often struggle to feel like they are doing the right thing and raising a human is difficult. Note here, I'm not saying Tui's a bad mother, I'm saying that it's hard to raise children even if you do everything right, and it is easy to feel like you are messing things up because of how difficult it is. But anyways, I don't think it is my place to psychoanalyze 2AT Sutherland too much. So let's move on to our next subject. One interesting complexity of motherhood in the world of Wings of Fire is how it interacts with the history of the dragons. In the beginning of the dragon world, humans were the dominant species. Then, humans started to get a bit too cocky and started to kidnap dragon eggs in hopes of raising the dragons into being living weapons. The dragons then got together and set back the humans a good 2,000 years in development and destroyed their civilization in an event known as the Scorching. The dragons were able to recover their dragonettes for the most part, and the scavengers would never rise up again to steal dragon eggs. What was once a menace was now considered prey and a pest, at least until Sky and Ren came along over 5,000 years later. The Scorching demonstrates a mother's love and how far a mother would go for her children, even a dragon mother. However, only a few hundred years after the Dragon Revolution dedicated to freeing children, the dragons decided to create the royalty system, or at least the royalty system just came to be. Surely, dragons would remember their history? Some dragons from the Scorching might even still be alive, as it has been hinted at that dragons are more long-lived than humans. In the royalty system that was established, the tribe is ruled by a queen. Almost any female relative to the queen can challenge her for the throne, though normally the challenger is the queen's daughter. The challenge always ends in death, either of the mother or the daughter. Now, why would a system like that take shape after dragonkind just had an entire meltdown about eggs and her young being captured and killed? Strangely enough, it might be to protect the daughters themselves. First of all, in case it isn't obvious, a young dragonette is not able to challenge the queen and win. That means that the daughter will not take the throne before she is ready, unless something bad happens to her mother and she's the only one next in line and they cannot assign a regent. The daughter will also not challenge until she is ready to kill her mother. Next, it ensures that the daughter is strong enough to handle the responsibility of being queen. If she can take a life, especially the one of her mother, she is mentally strong enough to rule a kingdom and do what needs to be done to protect it. She is also physically strong enough to rule her kingdom and defeat any challengers who are not of royal blood, or just any challengers in general who are of royal blood and want her throne. In a strange way, the royalty system helps protect the queen and her daughter. Though it does not ensure their physical health, it ensures that they leave a strong legacy as they are strong enough to take the throne. Of course, this system is flawed. The way the Rainwings conduct challenges does not end in death, and yet still proves one worthy of the throne all the same. The Sandwings have a failsafe in case the wrong daughter or an evil dragon becomes queen as well, though it does kill the dragon who is not worthy. In the future, I can definitely see the tribes adopting the Rainwings' ways, and perhaps one day even phasing it out entirely and replacing it with a system similar to the Silkwing Leafwing Parliament. Let's move on to mothers as characters in Wings of Fire. In a lot of Xenofiction series, female characters are often reduced to just being mothers. They are also seen as weak because they are female and because they are mothers and caring and nurturing. One book where it is especially prominent is Watership Down. In Watership Down, we follow a group of male rabbits, or bucks, setting out on their own. The bucks seek to make their own warren, and in order to do that, they need does. In this book, the does are incubators for the desire of the bucks. They are described as assets, not other rabbits to be convinced to join their burrow, but rabbits to be stolen and taken like property. The bucks worry about the does only because their stress might make them infertile, not because they are stressed in general. The does receive no characterization outside their gender or their origin, with the farm-raised does being characterized as especially weak because they are from the farm. The only real exception is Holly. Holly is a doe from a warren who, alongside the other does, wants to leave to create a new warren. Holly eventually leaves to join the bucks and helps them in the siege. There are only 4 named does in the entire book, contrasted to the 24 or so named male characters. When one of the does dies, they don't even take a second to think about it or mourn her. One of the male characters even remarks, "Anyways, what's a doe more or less?" The male characters barely even consider a female life to be worth anything. However, Watership Down was a product of its time, the intensely sexist early 1900s, when people knew a lot less about rabbits than they do now. Back then, they assumed all animals were as sexist as humans, and thus they were written like that in Xenofiction. Unfortunately, modern xenofiction also has the same issue. A lot of xenofiction is still based on the outdated and sexist beliefs about animals that people used to hold. The entire alpha hierarchy of wolves is an example of that. The creator of the alpha hierarchy theory actually came out and denounced it a while back. A lot of people also write sexist lines as well, coughing in the general direction of you know what. But when it comes to fictional animals, people still make misogynistic systems for them to live by in the modern day. This can be seen in the series Earth Dragons. It's been a while since I read the entire series, and I only have the first book on hand, or paw, so sorry for the inconveniences. In Earth Dragons, the female dragons are once again prizes to be fought over, quite literally. The first scene of the books is two dragons fighting over a female. Though there are notable female dragons who have their personalities, ultimately they are a vessel for male development and they are somewhat shallow. It's been a while since I read the series, but here are the three most important female characters: Gristina, Grendel, and Gristina's female dragon who I couldn't find a name for anywhere. Gristina's death kickstarts the entire plot. Grendel is a one-dimensional love interest who really does nothing active until book 3. Gristina's female dragonette exists just to get possessed. Another series, Warrior Cats, is less bad, but it also suffers from a problem where female characters often lose their characterization after they become mothers, or are pushed to the side after becoming mothers. This can be seen in Ferncloud, and specifically, the fandom's perception of her as a character. Outside the books, people hated on her because she was a mother, who was not contributing to the clan like the warriors were. This notion is obviously wrong, and portrays how being a mother is something assumed of a woman. Motherhood isn't seen to be a task or a labor, when someone participating as a father is. Fathers get complimented for looking after their children once, like Fernsong, but mothers rarely get acknowledgement for their hard work and looking after their children day after day. The hatred of Ferncloud within the fandom, due to her being a mother, led to her death. In an interview, the Errands revealed that they needed a character to kill off, and they eventually settled on her because of her being hated by the fandom. Misogyny and hatred of mothers killed Ferncloud. I was thinking of doing a Motherhood and Warrior Cats video, however, I realized it would take too much time for me to conceptualize from script to video on it, and I had just too many ideas to make it work right now. It would be much longer than this one, and I obviously would not be able to get out for Mother's Day, but if you would be interested in seeing it still, comment down below. Anyways, let's get back to Wings of Fire. In Wings of Fire, once a character becomes a mother, they do not lose any agency or dimension. An example of this is Ivy's mom, Lark. Despite being in an abusive and controlling relationship, she still does things such as organizing a team to create a new tunnel, and she eventually does stand up for herself. Then there's Manta, Fathom's mother. She tried to kill Albatross, and though she failed, it was a valiant effort. Katydid's an interesting case. She did the best she could in a difficult situation. Though she lied to Cricket, one cannot blame her, as she was doing what she thought was best for her at the time. One has to admire her for that. She also keeps her agency and is a very complex character. Several main characters actually become mothers and they keep their agency and keep on doing cool things. During the third arc, Cricket adopts Bumblebee. That doesn't keep her from helping to take down the Hive-Wing regime. Two protagonists settle down and have children post their novel, Foeslayer and Indigo. Foeslayer goes on to be a general while Arctic is her house husband. Indigo gets the happy ending she deserved, and one can see that she's still as fierce as ever and hasn't lost any of her dimension just because she became a mother. Being motherly and nurturing isn't a weak thing or something to be looked down upon. In fact, some of the strongest characters in the series happen to be good mothers. Foeslayer and Indigo are both powerful fighters and good mothers. It's nice to see female characters exist in a Xenofiction novel and not being dumbed down to just being mothers or incubators, like Watership Down in Earth Dragons. However, if the book does contain mothers, which it probably will, them keeping their strength and dimension is equally as important as respecting women beyond what they can give to a man. In fact, it sort of is the same thing. By respecting mothers, you are respecting all women. Tui understands this because she is a mother. Granted, women can write some hella misogynistic stuff. Just look at warriors and select characterizations within Harry Potter. But Tui is far from that. Wings of Fire provides a unique and balanced look at female characters and motherhood, something rare in Xenofiction. Anyways, what's your opinion on Motherhood and Wings of Fire? Comment down below if you haven't commented anything already. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I make Wings of Fire and Warrior Cats videos pretty often, and your support means a lot to me. And to those who've already subscribed, thank you for your continued support. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Peace, Rogan out.